Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Urban Legends video. This one, I'll make a Urban Legend of the Week, as it was recommended to me just by the random page there on one of the wiki pages dedicated to urban legends. This one I have never heard of before, but I have definitely seen variations of it throughout the internet. And it has to do with the urban legend, one of the oldest ones apparently, having to do with the subject of a missing girl. However, this particular set of urban legends is completely a hoax. There's no truth to it whatsoever in terms of the identity of the girl or in terms of the photo used. Apparently all it is, and it seems to be the oldest one, all it is just some person that created this hoax, maybe to just see how far it travels. And to this day, apparently Snopes, which I looked up the information on, states that it remains one of their most searched items. So that goes to tell you that to this day it is still a pretty popular urban legend, or at least the urban legend itself is working on people, and that's why the search continues. And what I'm talking about is the urban legend known as Penny Brown is Missing, which you're looking at a picture of here. This particular urban legend, once I finish describing it, you'll know that what I mean earlier when I said that I've seen variations of it. It's one of those things where someone somewhere basically took something as far as an email, put some small amount of information, not too much but not too little, at least enough to be able to get the person to decide on what to do within that email. And then specifically, the email's idea was to have it spread and then have it shared to someone else. Nothing really malicious per se, like there's no viruses that are associated with this, or no set of instructions on, let's say, sending money somewhere fraudulently. No, all it was maybe just some person just trying to see exactly what happens, like if they make something really interesting, and then see how far these people quote unquote share it. So here's what happened. You can go back in time all the way to about 2001. So it's not too far back, but it's definitely still within somewhat of the early years of the internet. And this was at a time when people were sharing still emails all around. And you've seen those variations of like the Bill Gates one, where Bill Gates, if you send this email, if you share this email, then you'll get something of a reward. Well, this may have actually inspired it, because what had happened was it started in September of 2001, and that's when people started to see this cryptic email describing the following. All it said was, in that same picture that you're looking at now, it said, "Please look at the picture and then forward. I'm asking you all, begging you please, forward this email onto anyone and everyone you know. Please. My 9-year-old girl, Penny Brown, is missing. She has been missing now for 2 weeks. It is still not too late. Please help us. And if anyone anywhere knows anything, sees anything, please contact me at," and then they left a really long what looks to be like a nonsensical email of some sorts. And then it continues that I'm including a picture of her. All prayers are appreciated. It only takes 2 seconds to forward this on. If it was your child, you would want all the help you could get. Please, thank you for your kindness. Hopefully you can help us. Now, doesn't that some of that stuff even today sound familiar? Even to the last part, where it says it only takes 2 seconds to forward this on. I have seen that line used within many posts on Facebook when people are posting something and it has to do with some either political cause or some cause associated with human rights, or something happening to some part of the world with regards to some donation or some kind of cause, like military wise, whatever. They always seem to have something where all it takes is blah 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 amount of time for you to share it. Wouldn't you want this the same? And it's the idea to try to just get people to share it, and then that way others will see it and then they'll continue sharing it. Well, apparently it seems like all of that originated with this, with the so-called hoax tied to the Penny Brown is missing factor. And ever since then, this particular email or variation of it went throughout the internet and spread so much so. In fact, here's another one. It's from 2003, and it has to do with the idea that there's a store manager now from Walmart who has this same daughter apparently. It's a 9-year-old daughter, and she too has been missing again for 2 weeks. And that same line at the end where it only takes 2 seconds to forward this on, and then it has the very, very same email as well. So you can see that someone took this original one, like back in 2001, saw it, kind of tweaked it a little bit, and then added their own little spot as well. And then it just continues from there. There's another one apparently in 2005 that continues, and then who knows to this day as well, because Snopes has mentioned that to this day it is one of their top searches when it comes to anyone looking up urban legends, especially those tied to the internet. And they state on that end that it goes to show that how much this is still circulating throughout the internet. What was it, 2001? So that's what, about 14 years later or so, that this still remains one of their top searches. Crazy stuff, no? The idea that it all originated with one person clicking a send email, and then 14, 15 years later, it is still being passed around. Even if it's not the original one, then it's still just being passed around. As far as who that girl is, in the picture that's used, no one really knows what that is. If Snopes doesn't have it, and they're pretty good at getting things cleared in terms of information, then it's interesting to see that no one has come forward with regards to telling who that girl is. There's even a huge chance that that girl, who obviously is a real girl, has no idea like that her picture was used in this manner. Someone just found it somewhere someday and started it with this chain of emails, and then it just went from there. So if anyone has any more information, like maybe that girl, when she grew up and she saw all the information about this hoax, how it's tied to her somewhere, maybe she realized it and then decided to say, hey, I'm not this person, at least in the context that it was used. So if anyone has that information, that would be good to hear as well. Some people actually have been somewhat victimized by this hoax too. I was reading some information, and it says some of these emails apparently started adding names to them. Like they would say the mother of the girl is so and so, and then that name actually turns out to have someone in real life with that particular name. For example, there was a lady named Helen Bessigny who apparently lived in Australia, and once one portion of the emails started to say her name, whether that person purposely used her name or just made it up on the spot, but somehow it still just through coincidence was her name altogether, of this lady in Australia. She suddenly started to get a whole bunch of calls and a whole bunch of emails asking, hey, is this you? Like, what happened to your daughter? And then she would get interviews. At one point, apparently, she was answering up to 150 emails a day and then fielding hundreds of calls. There's another version of it, too. Someone somewhere used in the email the name Kimberly Leon as the mother. And there was apparently here in Austin, Texas, a real person named Kimberly Leon, and she too had to field a whole bunch of questions and reports. It was so much so that at one point, one of the emails had the name of the mother as Monzine Jang, and when that happened, people were able to find that there was a person named Monzine Jang that worked as a physician at the University of Calgary. And when all these emails and all these phone calls started to come her way, she had to leave a message that said, if you are calling regarding an email about a missing girl, please do not forward it, as she is not the daughter of Monzine Yang. Monzine has contacted the Calgary Police and Missing Children Organization as she believes that this is a hoax. So she was so much inundated with these requests that her department had to set up that particular voicemail just for that purpose. Crazy, crazy stuff. By the way, and a little bit of a tragic set of news, there actually was a real life Penny Brown that did make the news, but it wasn't the girl that's listed here. Rather, it was this poor woman that you're looking at a picture of here. This lady was someone who lived in New York, And apparently back in 1999, she was just jogging, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere. I don't know if it was like in the morning or if it was in the afternoon or night, but some young punk decided to go ahead and take advantage of her. And it was to the point where I think he kidnapped her and then raped and then eventually strangled her to death. And this was unfortunately back 1999, right then on Mother's Day, and it happened in Salamanca, New York. I believe the information shows there. Well, this punk, his name is Edward Kind, or trying to pronounce his last name, it's Kindt. He had the fortune, and I say that term loosely, of being 15 years old at the time. So what had happened was there in New York, their laws at that time, if someone was below a certain age, meant that they would only receive a sentence of 9 years to life in prison. Even if they murdered someone and did all this horrendous stuff that he did, they will only be sentenced 9 years to life in prison, which meant that he could be let go anytime starting 9 years from the date of the conviction up until life, depending on parole hearings. And that infuriated, and rightfully so, a whole bunch of people, because the idea was these laws at that time there in New York were so kind to anyone that was below a certain year of age that they could literally get away with murder and then be out in less than a decade, only because of their youth, only because of the idea that they were so young that they couldn't be able to handle their decisioning, and that's why we have to be light on their sentences. Ridiculous stuff. So obviously, once this happened, there was a change there in New York about having this particular law altered. And now it's changed so that anyone who gets convicted, and let's say in the same manner, and it's a brutal, heinous crime, murder, the same thing that happened to Penny Brown, then when that happens, they can get sentenced 15 to 25 years to life. So it adds on a whole bunch of years, even if they are below a certain age, even if they're considered, in this case, minors. And that law that was passed became known as Penny's Law. So there was actually a Penny Brown that took over the news in a sort of a very unfortunate way, but that's a little bit of information on that. By the way, if you're wondering whatever happened to that punk, this Edward Kind, he's still actually in jail. I found an article that said back in 2014, just last year, he was yet again up for parole, but the parole board denied him. This was the fourth time. So that original sentence that I was mentioning earlier, that it was like 9-10 years to life, it's still going, in other words. So there's no set time. He could be there for another 25 years. He could be there up until next parole. Who knows? But it looks like the parole board is not having it thus far. They're listening to what the community has to say as far as the brutal crime that he committed, and he's still there rotting away in jail right now. So anyways, that's the information associated with this urban legend. If anyone has any more information about the Penny Brown is missing urban legend that they didn't cover, it'd be great to hear. And as always, I'm going to go ahead and start the new videos later on this weekend. So, alright everybody, thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.